Everyone, it's Emily. Welcome back on my channel. Today's video is going to be another half and half video review where I compare two products, and this time these products seem like they're going to be dupes, so I wanted to show you swatches of what they look like, the colors that are similar or the same, as you will see. I also wanted to do an eye look and wear these shadows for the whole day, so you can see that not only are they looking the same, but they are also performing similarly or not. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a possible dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette, which everyone has been going crazy over, me included. I'm usually not someone that loves like warm or reddish eyeshadow looks, or I feel like I can't pull them off, but this palette completely changed the game for me. And this has been like selling out constantly, so definitely a cult favorite. But Wet n Wild is coming out with new eyeshadows. They reformulated all of them, which I'm going to be doing a video swatching all of them compared to the old formula that I do have, or at least the shades that I do have. And they came out with this palette, which, I mean, you look at it and literally the first thing you think about is Modern Renaissance. Like, it looks so similar. And there's not as many shadows as in this palette. So there are a few less eyeshadows here, but I will be comparing each of those shades to the ones that are very, very close in this palette. And if I show you right now the swatches, you can see that they are similar. They're not all of them exact dupes, but quite a few of them are so close, it's crazy. Just a heads up, this is the order that they're going to be swatched in, but no worries, you really can easily tell them apart when they're swatched. Shade number 1, I did 3 layers and compared it to the shade Warm Taupe, 2 layers of that one. You can really see that the Anastasia one is darker and has a cooler undertone. Shade number 2, I did 2 layers for both of them. The Wet n Wild shade is lighter and it's a warm yellow color. The Anastasia one is cooler, more peachy pink. Shade number 3, this one actually really surprised me. You will see it in the look in a second. They end up looking really similar on the eye, but there's a real difference when you actually swatch them. The Wet n Wild one is a lot more like old gold, peachy type of color. Like a lot of the other colors, shade number 4 isn't as cool tone as the Anastasia one that it dupes, but once they're on your eyes, you can't really tell. Also, I did have to build up the intensity a lot more. Shade number 5 looks like a classic bronze color, and then the antique bronze you can see is a little cooler. Shade number 6, the second transition color, I thought at first it was going to be a dupe for burnt orange, but turns out when you swatch them, it looks closer to raw sienna, so I did choose that one to show you, although it's a bit warmer again. Shade number 7 is probably the closest dupe, although when you build them up, you can tell that Realgar is more pigmented. I did 2 layers for the Anastasia one and 3 for the Wet n Wild one. Same thing with Red Ochre, I only had to do 2 layers compared to the 3 for number 8. Number 9 is super close to Love Letter, maybe a touch better, but very, very close. Last but not least, the dark brown matte shade. I only had to do 1 layer for the Anastasia one, so look at that pigmentation. And the Wet n Wild one, I had 3 layers, and again, it's a bit warmer. I did do this eye look, and I'm currently wearing both palettes. Can you even tell which side do you think is the drugstore one? Which one is the high-end one? Can you tell? Because I think it ended up looking very, very close. I'm going to be including clips so you can see them in action. I made sure to use the same brushes and clean them in between with some brush cleaner, and I tried to make them look as close as possible. Before I show you which shades and everything I used and do the little clip of me doing that tutorial, let's vote in the comment section, pause the video or just as I'm speaking. Which side do you think is the drugstore side and which one do you think is the Modern Renaissance palette? So I'm going to be starting with the Wet n Wild eyeshadows on my right side, your left side, so if you voted correctly, you win. So inner crease, I'm going to be using the transition shade on top and the mauve color, and I'm just going to be blending them with a NYX brush that I have. Just blend, blend, blend. I did have to build it up a little bit to get to the full pigmentation I wanted, but nothing that wasn't super easy to work with. They're not overly powdery, they don't seem to be bad quality whatsoever. So far everything was going very well. And if I was to do right away the Anastasia one, so I used the dupe shades in there. So again, the Warm Taupe shade and the Buon Fresco. Again, use the same NYX brush and just blend, blend, blend. The thing is, I didn't have to blend it as hard, or I didn't have to build up the color as much. It was super easy to blend. I mean, I already know that I like this palette because it's so easy to work with. Next step, I went into the magenta and the like reddish brown color. I used a Sigma 825, the travel little size that I have. And then I started building up the color in my outer V and just blend, blend, blend once again. I did have to build it up and it wasn't as easy to blend evenly Nothing crazy though. Like if you're someone that's, again, just starting with crazy colors like this, you might find it almost easier to add the color just a little bit by a little bit. But you will have to blend it harder than the Anastasia said, as you will see in a second. But again, nothing crazy. I was able to make both sides look very, very close. I did end up using also a little bit of the Firma 204 brush because I felt like my Sigma one is getting a little dry. I don't know if it's the cleanser that I used on it, but I feel like this one helped to blend it a little more evenly. So once again, I cleaned those brushes and then I went on the Anastasia side. I used the color Red Ochre and Love Letter, which are the closest one from that palette. And again, blend them in my outer V and just a little bit in the crease. And I have to say, this is kind of where you see the biggest difference between the both palette. This one, I only had to touch the shadows like once, and I didn't end up having to go back at all. So a lot easier to blend out. They were a lot more pigmented, which might sound scary, but it's almost easier since they were so blendable. To make the top of the blending even and just flawless, I used the light yellow milky shade just under my brow, and again blend it. And then on the other side, I use the color Tempera to do the same thing. This one is a little bit different in color. It's a little bit more pinky than the Wet n Wild one, but again, once it's blended, you really can't tell. Last but not least, on the top lid, I included that champagne color. Once again, when you swatch the Anastasia one next to it, they're not exactly the same color, but once they are on your eyes, you really can't tell them apart. And again, on the Anastasia side, I use my finger and I applied the color Primavera. Last but not least, I applied the crease colors and then the outer V colors on my lower lashes. And when you look at the final look, I don't know about you, but I really can't tell the difference. They look super similar. Yes, I did have to work harder a little bit, like nothing crazy, but just a bit harder to blend everything and build up the colors on the Wet n Wild side. So overall, my opinion, I will be including at the end a clip of what they look like at the end of the day, but in my opinion, if you're on a budget and you don't mind working a little bit harder to blend and build up the colors, go with the Wet n Wild Rosé in the Air palette because the final look can totally be the same. When you swatch them on your arm side by side, they're not exactly the same. You do have to build up the color and blend a bit more, but overall the look is just so close that I would totally recommend getting this one if you don't want to get this one. Overall, I'm super impressed with the Wet n Wild eyeshadows. I was a little worried because whenever a brand that comes out with a newest product, reformulated product from something you love, I'm always like, why did you do this? But this palette is a really, really great addition to their collection. I would totally recommend you to check it out. Okay, so it's been over like almost 10 hours, so I wanted to update you and show you the eyeshadow look and show you how they performed. You might be able to tell from this distance that there's no difference in my opinion. They look exactly the same, so I'm gonna zoom you in. I think they both lasted really well. There's no side that just disappeared or anything. So if you were wondering if the Wet n Wild eyeshadows last as long as the Anastasia Beverly Hills ones, the answer is yes. So that's it guys, I really hope you enjoyed this quick little half-half review. Is it a dupe series? Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It helps other people find it, and who doesn't want to find some more dupes? Don't forget to subscribe and not miss any future videos. I will be putting on the screen 2 other videos that I've done, so don't forget to check those out, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!